Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Territory Talk podcast, presented as always by our friends over at Baptist Health, the official sports medicine provider of the Florida Panthers. I'm your host, Jameson Olive, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, the newest head coach of the Florida Panthers, Paul Maurice. Paul, thanks for taking the time.
Well, thank you very much. I feel very welcome.
So Paul, to start this off, I'm going to go way back here. So your first head coaching job in the NHL was 1996, Hartford Whalers, no longer around.
95,
96. Yeah. I got to ask, flash forward 2 decades later, how does day one today with the Panthers compare to day one back there, wide-eyed?
Oh, my God. Well, quite a bit different because that job I turned down 3 times. So I was, 28 years old. I had worked for the gentleman that owned the team. They bought the Hartford Whalers, and I had worked for them in major junior. It's like college sports down here. And they were making a coaching change, and they wanted me to be the guy, and I didn't want that job. I'll tell you the difference. When I called to tell my wife that I was going to be the head coach of the Hartford Whalers, she bawled. When I called to tell her the Florida Panthers, she screamed. She was pretty darn happy. So a lot has changed. I think one of the things that happens is as you get some experience, you appreciate things a lot more and you can enjoy them a lot more. So I was tentative on my way into the league, but I'm pretty darn excited today.
And a lot's happened since you came into the league. Like I said, 2+ decades coaching in the NHL. Experience. It's one of those things you really can't teach. You just got to do it. You learn by going through experiences. Right. Bill Zito talked a lot about your experience and the value that brings. How do you personally value your experience, and how do you think you can impart that on the team?
Well, you know what? What's interesting about experience. I read this great line once that if you have the same experience each year for 20 years, you don't have 20 years experience. You just have the same experience. Hockey, though, changes the landscape around you. So you start to see new things. So there's a great value to experience, but this next season will be like no other. People change, players change, the new player has changed. So there's an evolution as a coach that has to take place. What experience has taught me is you got to keep learning. And you got to stay ahead of that curve. So focusing on best practices of other NHL teams so you're on the cutting edge of what's going on, the direction the game's going. But I think what experience does, and everybody's personality is different, what experience has done for me is maybe pull me back a little bit, right? You don't have to react like a madman or it's a different time. You don't have to overreact to things. You can let some things play out. But, I want a new experience. I mean, it's been a lot. I'm still a young man. I've got lots of energy for this game, and I want to experience all of it.
And you're coming into a great situation here. The Panthers won the President's Trophy last year, won their first playoff round since 1996. But as someone that's coached almost 100 games in the NHL playoffs, what's maybe the key in your mind to a team taking that next step?
Yeah, understanding first that the playoff game is different and always has been. Certain things change. One of it is the rush game disappears for most of your offense. So if you're a rush-generating team, you're not getting the same number. And that's okay. As long as you accept that, you understand that. You think you're getting 10 or 12 and you're only getting 3 or 4. Well, that's playoff hockey. So what you'll find is skilled teams, and not necessarily young teams, but skilled teams that have had incredible seasons have a tendency to get more frustrated quickly because the game changes. So our task is to embrace that playoff game. And it's hard to do because the other team's now 82 games of this sport changes the way men play. That you can't play 82 playoff games, there'd be nothing left. So you have to find ways to identify opportunities to, as we say, get into the mud, to get into the thick of it and then start enjoying that. So you get into the grind, you embrace that, it becomes part of your identity. You hit the playoffs, it happens in game 1, you're used to it, you're ready for it.
And the Panthers' calling card last year with depth, but of course this team has a very strong central core with guys like Alexander Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau, Aaron Ekblad. What excites you about getting to coach those star players in particular?
So I'm not, you know what? I'm like all of you. I'm a fan. Some of the things I've cherished most in the game is being on the ice with these guys in practice and seeing something incredibly special. So whether it was Matt Sundin one-time a puck from a place you just shouldn't be able to one-time a puck, or Blake Wheeler turn a corner, or Ron Francis see somebody that you just, I had 3 or 4 Hall of Fame players, and you would be on the ice in practice and see something brilliant. And you wish the fans could kind of watch practice sometimes because these guys are so good. So you've got some players here that can do some special things. I'm looking forward to the time when you're on the ice in training camp and one of those guys does something that only they can, and then you get to experience. I know that's selfish for me, but I really enjoy. That's the fan part, right? I want to have my cell phone and kind of take a video of it. If I tweet it, I tweet it out. But.
We talk about the evolution. Nice having a cell phone in your pocket. I'm sure how to record all this.
Yeah, that's
Missed
exactly
a lot
right.
back in the day.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You talk about.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
So we would, back in the day, and I was at the Miami Arena, believe it or not. But when I'm in Carolina and we're playing down here, like there was no video. It was the Jumbotron feed. Like nobody was broadcasting the games. Just think how much the things have changed over that time. You've got 2 now premier franchises in the NHL, Carolina and Florida. Fabulous players, great teams, great markets. Things have certainly changed.
Looking at this team as a whole, obviously the coaching staff does help create a lot of that identity of a team. Fans have read the press release, they've seen the stats, the numbers,
Right.
your resume, but what do you think is maybe the calling card of a Paul Maurice coach team? When they look out on the ice, they'll say, okay, that team's coached by Paul Maurice.
So where we want to get to every year is no easy ice defensively. We will give no easy ice. It's a hard-gapped, highly contested game, but I've always let my offensive players make plays. As long as they're smart and they aren't consistently not smart plays, I love the skill in the game. So, let's go back. I'm gonna answer this question with one you asked me earlier. I love to experience the game. I don't want to choke it. I love the offense. I also love to see grown men bond together and why is a 5-on-3 penalty kill when you kill it so inspiring? Underman, it's all the great things we love in a movie. Underman, guys getting bombed, they're blocking shots, goalies making save, the crowd goes wild, right? There's something unifying in that underdog mentality defensively. Now, when you get 122 points and you score more goals than anybody, you don't have an underdog mentality, and you shouldn't, right? But there's something really enjoyable in terms of performance for me to try to bond a group of men together so that they love the grind.
And kind of also looking, at this team now moving forward, just looking around. I mean, like you said, you've had a long career, but mainly 2 stops. You look at Carolina and, of course, Winnipeg. Before you got here, almost a decade in Winnipeg. Just how exciting is it to be, starting a new journey? I mean, new logos everywhere, in a new locker room.
Isn't that the truth, right? And that's kind of what happened. I'd gotten to the point in Winnipeg that my performance, I'd done what I could do, right? I think you're either winning Stanley Cups or you're developing from scratch, in which case those 2 coaches stay. But I think if you're pushing hard, you can't stay. 9-10 years, I've been very fortunate to work for very smart men. So they could assess the job that I was doing, so I got to stay for quite some time. But there comes a point in time you got to change the coach. If not, the coach probably isn't driving hard enough. Right? You got to get to that threshold where they go, okay, God, man, you've pushed them as hard as you can. If you win a Stanley Cup, that everybody gets new batteries then, right? We're all good. Let's go back at it again. But I had gotten to that point and then really hadn't thought much about what my next step would be. I truly was not looking for a job, didn't make one call, received some calls and politely declined, thinking, and some of it is I know some of the men are out there, I would say, I think there's a better candidate for you. I think this guy would be perfect for you, except for this phone call, right? And it has nothing to do with the President's Trophy. It really does. I see that more as a challenge that I have than necessarily a gift, right? Because it's got to be 123 next year. And that's just not true. For us to get to, we've got a whole bunch of other things that we've got to work on. But this is inspiring to me, right? Some of the players, I know some of the men that work in the front office quite well and have heard some good, but all you got to do, and spend 10 minutes with Bill Zito. He will fire you up, man. He will get you ready to go to work and get you excited. And I want that for my own performance. So he's going to help me get better. I looked at this as like the perfect situation. Got a good team. There are some challenges that they actually, you would need an experienced guy to get through. There's some challenges with the cap. We're going to have to put some kids in. The expectations is it's not that we're going to win. It's that we're going to win by 6 or 7 every night. And they need somebody that's going to be able to take that brunt, and that will be me. But man, when you look at a chance to do something, like not just win a Stanley Cup, yes, but more than that, as Bill says, build a premier sports foundation here for a long time. People are going to love this place, right?
And you talk about fired up. There's a quote you had a couple years ago in a press conference that really got me fired up, and it's something we say around here sometimes among coworkers when we're having tough days. But you were in a press conference and you said, "There's no such thing as a bad day working in the National Hockey League." And we live that every day here. Right. How much did you miss just a regular day in the NHL for that brief time you were out of the game between Winnipeg and here?
So I call it the juice. How much did you miss the juice? You know what? I can tell you that the Bill Zito had an enormous impact on kind of resurrecting that, right? Like, I was good. I'd done what I could do. I had with the Winnipeg Jets, and I was kind of fine where I was. So there are no bad days. Like, at the end of the day, and you know this because you work around the team, we are blessed with this. It's not easy. That doesn't mean that it's easy, right? There's a lot of real hard things that we do, just the physical fatigue, the intensity, the pressure, what we ask of our families, right? Those are really, truly hard things. But when you slide those things over to the scale of potential human suffering or of everyday life, man, are we lucky. So I think maybe as you get older, you appreciate that a little bit more, how fortunate I've been to work with the people that I've worked with. And then I walked in here, and it was that same thing. These guys want it, right? These guys want to win, and they're going to work to win it. So everybody says it. We're all trying to win the Stanley Cup. But you can sit in a room of men, and they're going to work hard that day, and they're going to work hard tomorrow. Then you want to be a part of it.
And as we know, when new coaches come to a new team, we're not just getting you, we're getting your entire family. You said your wife screamed when she heard the news. How excited is the whole family? I'm sure Florida's a pretty easy sell.
You know what? Yeah, absolutely. My kids they've been NHL kids, right? I've moved them all over. God, I've moved those poor kids around. But now they're adults, right? So they're kind of on their own. They're kind of, hey, Dad, whatever you want to do. But, you mean, you know it. It's Florida, right? So Christmas is going to be nice and warm this year for everybody. We're excited. My wife said to me, it's the first time in a long time I've heard you fired up. I got out of that 10-hour day with Bill and his staff and got on the phone, and she says, it's the first time you've been fired up in a long time. I'm excited for you.
Now, did you need someone to tell you that, or did you already kind of sense that yourself?
No, I knew it.
You know what?
I'm 15 minutes into a conference. So there's a Zoom call with Roberto Luongo, so I'm a big fan there, and Bill Zito, and we're talking, and I love the questions they're asking because they're hard questions. And this is not a casual interview. They were looking for something, and they were asking me questions, and I was not trying to find the answers that I thought I wanted them to hear. When I first came down, it wasn't even really trying to get the job. I'll tell you what I think. And this is what I plan to do. It's not going to work perfectly every time, but this is what I'll do. But man, I was fired up. I mean, which is nice for me. I've been blessed to have brilliant people around me my whole life, and you get to this place, and what happens is all of a sudden. So we went and toured upstairs. You want to win for those people. You want them to have great days too, right? You want them to be so proud that they're working for the Florida Panthers, and you want the fans to be wearing your jerseys in other teams' buildings, walking around going, that's right, Florida Panther fan, right? That's what you want for these people. Then you want to be part of giving it to them. The players, I think, have done that. Like when you watch this team play and you watch how much they enjoy each other, they got a lot of really good things that they don't need me for. I've got a few specific things that we've got to get on, and we can. But there's a whole lot here I don't want to change at all. There's a lot of really good here.
And last one for me on that, don't mean to put you on the spot. This is only day one, but what's maybe those next couple things on the checklist for you as you start to get settled in here and looking ahead to next season?
Yeah, well, we'll start with this is all phone calls. So between my staff, the staff that's here, the staff going forward, and then all the players. Just an introduction call. Then I'm going to go back and I'll watch all the games that I need to, and I'll break them down. I'll send that all to all the coaches. And that is actually a very time-consuming thing. So I want to make sure that on my second conversation with all the players, I have a really strong understanding. So we all know players, but if you watch and edit games and break things down, then you can really start to understand. So now my communication with the players is completely different. We'll start on training camp and how we want to structure it as soon as the schedule comes out, and spend a lot of time on the rink. It's fun. It's exciting. It's a fun place to be.
And I know we all can't wait for Puck Drop. It's going to be here before we know it. Of course, Territory Talk, as always, presented by our friends over at Baptist Health, the official sports medicine provider of the Florida Panthers. Paul, once again, big thanks for joining us here today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Can't wait to get started.
It was great to meet you, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.